Yo, how are you? Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Super fun one today. Let's get straight into the ultimate Pixar tier list with Sid going in S. He kind of serves as a benchmark for Pixar villains in a lot of ways. I As you get older and reflect on what he's done, maybe he's a little misguided, but he's not evil. But for the story, I do think he's the perfect antagonist for what they were trying to go for. And I love how small scale the story feels in comparison to a lot of the other Pixar films. But even still, he's kind of relatable in a way to, young boys who have malicious intent, even though they may not really realize what they're doing is as bad as it is. So, great villain. Hopper from A Bug's Life. I'm going to be honest, he's an A tier, and he was very scary to me as a kid. I remember thinking that I did not want any problems with him. I believe he curses in the film as well, which is something that is unique to Bug's Life, I believe. Next we have, I don't remember all the names to be honest. I do know this guy's from Toy Story 2. I do know he's funny. I remember thinking he was hilarious and that he was a toy collector. But in terms of A or S tier, forget about it. If I can't remember your name, probably not that great. On the contrary, we have in the same film Prospector, very good villain. Unexpected twist villain as well. Points for that. I think his motives are clear, and once he explains them, you understand where he's coming from. Trying to manipulate, Woody into going with Jesse and him into, I think it was a museum. Very well done twist that I did not see coming. S tier. Now, if we're talking about Zurg in Lightyear, I don't love the villain. But if we're talking about Zurg in, I think it's Toy Story 1, no, it's got to be Zurg in Lightyear. So I'm going to put him in F, honestly. The fact that they made Buzz Lightyear Zurg was a twist that, yes, I didn't see coming, but did not enjoy at all. Honestly, it made less sense the more I thought about it. This is Water Noose here, Monsters, Inc., main villain, twist villain again as well. He's going into S tier. He's quoted to this day in popular culture of being a menace to society. I'll do 1,000 children if it means keeping this company alive. Very funny. At the same time, very menacing and unexpected upon first watch. Great villain. Randall, another S tier Monsters, Inc. villain. He is very believable as an animated villain can be. Just a snake in the grass, one that you look out for. He's not necessarily the most imposing, but when you have that Monsters University backstory to him as well, it makes you connect to the villain even more. Great character. This is the Finding Nemo dentist here. I can't put him above C tier in good conscience just because I don't remember his name simply. He could be an F, but he just seems like a chill guy from what I remember in the film, so we'll put him in C tier. This is I don't remember what you call this type of fish, but the fish in Finding Nemo as well. I'll put it straight in C with his dentist comrade. Scary moment within the film when Dory and Marlin uncover this fish, but it's really just kind of a moment in the film. However, I will say the dentist's daughter here, I'll put her one above her dad with the shaking the fish. You truly believe that the fish are scared of her, and she kind of has a bad reputation in that right. She's written pretty well with for being kind of a small portion of the story, as they're really the journey, the obstacles that they have to overcome within the journey of Finding Nemo is really the true villain. But in terms of having like an antagonistic force being present, I think she's pretty funny. Syndrome is going to be right at the very top of this list. Fantastic villain that you understand his motives but don't agree with his motives. He's very, very evil, honestly, and it's all the protagonist's fault in the film. Whenever there is a antagonist created by the protagonist, it lends itself to really interesting storytelling. And I mean, the line of "if everyone's super, no one will be" still sticks with my head. Great, serious, fun villain. This is not a serious villain, but Chick Hicks is fantastic. I think he's so funny. Kachiga, as we all know, he does, and how he shows up in Lightning's dreams and everything like that. He's just a hater. Simply put, he is Lightning McQueen's hater number one. I think in the third Cars film, he has a podcast dedicated to slandering Lightning's name. He's just petty. And I think for that reason, he's going to go very high into S tier. Then we have Anton Ego, my favorite film. Yes, he does a good job in terms of tying the story together at the end. His monologue where the restaurant is reading his review, I think is poetic in so many ways. You know, Ego's going into S tier as well. I don't know what I was doing, trying to keep him out of S tier. That's where he's going to be. Fantastic villain. You know, not super scary necessarily, as he's just kind of a critic, but at the same time, the power that he could have over this restaurant, really is a spectacle to behold. Sorry for my cat's noise if you hear that. And then we have Skinner, Chef Skinner, the other antagonistic force in Ratatouille. He's going to go into A tier for me. I love how his height isn't, vocalized by any of the characters. It's not like a joke that would be very easy to make. They just simply have the physical gag of him being shorter than everyone in the kitchen, which I think is fantastic. I think in terms of a chef's personality in real life, it's pretty close to what I would believe Skinner's personality is like. And at the same time, I mean, he's just kind of in a wrong place at wrong time. Linguini comes out of nowhere and takes what he thinks is his. And so you understand, why one would be upset about that. Very fun villain and very funny as well. The chase of him going after Remy on the boats and stuff, it's great. Here we have Otto from WALL-E. Otto from WALL-E is a C tier villain for me. The robot voice doesn't do much for me. It just sounds a little bit too disconnected from reality for me to have a strong feeling towards the character either way. I don't really remember his motives. I remember that he did not want to go back to Earth, but why specifically, I'm not 100% sure. So if I can't even remember his motives, then he's going to be in C tier. This is the dog from Up, the Rottweiler from Up. I don't remember this dog's name. I think he had a high, squeaky voice, actually. I think that was the gag with this character, but we'll put him in C tier. And here is the actual main antagonistic force of Up. Charles, I think, was his first name. I don't remember his last. The first 10 minutes of Up is great, but the rest of the film, pales in comparison, and thus the antagonistic forces as well pale in comparison. Lotso Bear, though, on the other hand, is sensational. This cuddly bear, this pink cuddly bear, is a true villain in every sense of the word. Manipulative, scheming, maniacal, just the worst of the worst. Honestly, Lotso is going to go very high into S tier for me. Just the scene where, the toys end up saving Lotso from being in the trash compactor. Here's my cat, by the way. I'll talk about Lotso with my cat, but him being saved by Woody and Buzz in the trash compactor to then immediately having no remorse and just throwing all the toys into the fire right after. So evil. So evil. He's the worst of the worst. These next two, I believe, are the villains in Cars 2. Admittedly, I've only seen this film once, so as a result, I can't remember either of their names. They probably weren't that great anyway because the film is terrible. Then we have the bear from Brave. The bear from Brave I'll put in B. I've only seen Brave, I think, twice maybe, and it's been at least 5 years since I've seen it. I do remember that the mom turns into the bear, but I just can't simply remember the main antagonistic force of the film. I'm going to put it in C. I think the twist that, the mom becomes the bear and that's how they have to, make their relationship be in a better place than it was at the start of the film. Interesting, but not much other than that for me. This is the head dean of the school in Monsters University. I can't remember her name either, unfortunately. But I do like her character design and her stoic nature. I think that plays into a bit of why she's so intimidating in the film. And she does have a strong presence throughout that I believe is positive and has a better impact on the film. Then we have the Chad frat guy in Monsters University of Roar Omega Roar. Unfortunately, I can't remember his name either. That's becoming a trending theme, but I do think that he was pretty funny. He is admittedly worse than the head dean of the school, so I'll put him at the top of C tier. Genuinely, I cannot remember who this is. Do you guys know who this clown is? I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm going to wake up in the middle of the night, and it's going to come back to me, but for now, no idea who that is. F tier. Next, we have the Velociraptor from The Good Dinosaur. An abysmal film with an even more abysmal villain. Again, this is another one, guys. Please tell me who this is. I genuinely don't know who this octopus is and what film he is the villain of for Pixar movies. But we have Jackson Storm right after. Jackson Storm's going to go into A tier. He is Lightning McQueen if he didn't go to Radiator Springs. I saw that online a while ago, and it's never gone out of my head. So true. He is everything Lightning McQueen could have become if he didn't go through his hero's journey that he went on. So very well done from that perspective. I love that he's cocky, arrogant, and the ending I'm not the biggest fan of in terms of Cars 3, but when you're talking about the antagonist only, Jackson Storm is him, A tier. Ernesto de la Cruz, very good villain, very good. He's a twist villain, obviously, upon first watch, and it was not expected from me whatsoever. I didn't really know where the story was going in terms of the main antagonistic force of that film, but when it was revealed to be Ernesto and you see why he's acted the way he has and how he cares more about fame than literally anything else in his life, the dude's just a bad guy, bad person. He's a thief, and he's, I don't know if I can say this word on YouTube, but he does terrible things. He tries to do a terrible thing to Miguel. So he is in S tier, probably right above Ego. Very good villain from Coco. Here is it Eleanor? I think it's Eleanor. Or Evelyn. Evelyn from Incredibles 2. The Screenslaver. Unexpected villain, absolutely. Was it the best choice for the film? Maybe not. Upon rewatch, I actually think that there's several hints dropped that Evelyn is the Screenslaver, but it wasn't as good of a villain as any of them in A or S, in my opinion. So that's why I'm going to put Evelyn in B tier. I completely understand if you want to move her up or down a couple of tiers, but that's me. Then we have Gabby, who may be one of the more sympathetic villains in Pixar's catalog. At the end of the day, her motivation is simply wanting to be played with, and as a toy who's become forgotten, within that universe, you could really see how a toy would become a villain, through years and years of neglect with what they're created for. Then here's the dragon and Onward. To call this the villain of the film really isn't accurate, I would say. I'll put it in, the design is cool. The design is, if the Velociraptor from Good Dinosaur can make it into C tier, I'm actually going to put him into F tier. I'm going to put him into F tier and put this dragon into C tier from Onward. I think the main actual villain of the film is Tom Holland's character. His name I forget, but his inability to be brave when he wants to be. And through his journey in this film, he ends up, getting that bravery along with these magical powers. That all comes to a head when he fights this dragon in his hopes of, meeting his dad. So, good villain, but it's not really, an evil force that you're feeling throughout the film. Just kind of put in at the end to show our hero how far our hero has come. Then we have the villain from Soul. I remember his accent, and I remember him flipping through the filing cabinets, but other than that, I don't know, guys. It's not bad. Definitely not F tier, but to put him in anything higher than B, I think would be a little wrong, personally. I'm looking at these C tier villains. I think it's okay to put him above them, but he very well could be at the top of C, as I don't remember really him doing anything other than just trying to find the missed soul or the lost soul, and doesn't really get to that point until the very, very end of the film. And I don't think what he does throughout the film has any sort of ramifications on how the rest of the interactions play out. I'll put him at the top of C tier. Then we have Ercole from Luca. Ercole. He just is the definition of a schoolyard bully. Just annoying in every way, who picks on kids younger than his age. Very realistic character, honestly. You could see an Ercole actually being out there and existing. He's a good villain, and he's annoying in the best way possible. A very good foil to Luca as the main villain, and a fun character overall. We have the mother in Turning Red next. I don't love the story, as I don't feel like it was made for me necessarily. But at the same time, she is truly the antagonistic force throughout the film. I'll put her just above the dentist from Finding Nemo. If she'll go there, there she is. I mean, she's a mom just trying to do the best for her child, and it's not like she has malicious intentions with anything that she's doing. But at the same time, it's a pretty forgettable story, in my opinion, as the whole goal is to get to this boy band concert, and her mom is trying to stop that from happening, I believe. So I'll put her C tier. Pretty low stakes story. So here we have Zurg again. I'll leave the other Zurg as the one from Lightyear, and we'll treat this Zurg as the one from the Toy Story films. He was mostly in the, was it the second? I think he was mostly in the second, and there was the funny Star Wars reference in that one. So I'll put that Zurg at B tier. And then lastly, we have Ember's father in Elemental. How his actions towards Ember and his, how he feels about what her choices are from the beginning to the end of the film is so different, and he really himself has a large character arc in this film. The bow at the end of Elemental, I cannot talk highly enough about. It gets me in my emotions every time. I'm going to put Ember's dad in. I'm going to put him because he's not really a villain. It's tough for me to call parents, like just straight up parents of the main character, outright villains, just because you would assume at least that the motives are good behind their actions. So I'll put him in the top of B tier simply for the bow. I am an anxiety hater. I'm going to be honest. This is anxiety, obviously, and Inside Out 2. I'm not a super anxious person in general. I do get anxious time to time, but the personification of that emotion to be the main driving force of what goes wrong in the film, I didn't like. I found anxiety to be very annoying, and not in a fun, annoying way, in a please get off of my screen, I don't want to see more of your character kind of way. So I'll put anxiety. Anxiety is not an F, because the film accomplished its goal of me not liking its character. So we'll put anxiety at the top of C tier, simply for my personal disdain of the character. If you've made it this far into the video, I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. Check out my other tier list that I've uploaded this week. I'm going to be back tomorrow with yet another video for you guys. Thank you so much for watching up to this point. Again, subscribe to make the dream a reality, and I hope you have a great day. I'll see you in the next one.